Diana from So Very Crafty, and we are here today to make this terrific little vaccine card holder. Now, all of us are getting our vaccines and have a card that we need to keep safe. Now, there are some people out there that are laminating their cards, but I have heard that that's not a good idea. So I came up with this idea to have a vaccine card holder with a little bit of vinyl to keep it safe and secure. It folds in half, it's two-sided, so you can make a copy of one side and have your original in the other side. And it's super simple sewing project that any beginner sewist can make, I assure you. I hope that you will enjoy this project. It is, like I said, a super simple project to make. If you do enjoy this, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, ding for those notifications so that you can see more of So Very Crafty's videos in the future. But in the meantime, let's get started on how to make this super simple project. So what are you going to need? You're going to need 2 pieces of fabric that measure 8 inches long by 5.5 inches wide. You're going to need 1 piece of interfacing. Now I used Pellon 808 or 809, they're both the same. But you could use maybe an SF 101 if you wanted, but I used a Pellon 808 for mine. And then you're going to need 2 pieces of vinyl that measure 5.5 across by 3 3/4 wide. And that's it. That's all you need for this project. So simple. So for step 1 of this project, we are going to fuse our interfacing to the wrong side of one of our fabric pieces. And our interfacing measures the same size as our fabric piece, which is 8 inches by 5.5 inches. So I'm just going to run over to the iron and I'm going to fuse this real quick. You just fuse that with a hot iron and it will stick on there as if it's a single piece of fabric. Just follow the manufacturer's instructions and you'll be able to do it too. It's not that difficult. With interfacing, one side has a glue side, one side does not. You'll notice that one side is shiny and one side is not. Just put that shiny side on the wrong side of your fabric when you press, and that glue is going to fuse into your fabric. So let me run over to the iron and do that, and we'll come right back and do our next step. Okay, so now we're back, and you can see we fused this interfacing to the wrong side. And we're going to take that piece that we fused the interfacing on, and we're going to place our vinyl pieces at the ends. Now you do not want to use pins with vinyl because the pin marks will show. So I'm going to take some Wonder Clips here and I am going to just clip this vinyl to the bottom of my piece. And we are going to head over to the sewing machine and I am just going to use a 1/8 inch seam allowance to stitch along the bottom and the sides of this to secure that vinyl in place. Now if you're a more advanced sewist, you won't need to do this. You can just jump to the next step. But because we have a lot of beginner sewists on So Very Crafty, we're going to secure this in place with a little 1/8 inch seam all the way around. Now the one thing you need to know about vinyl is using a regular presser foot is problematic because it'll stick to the vinyl. So what I use when I'm sewing with vinyl is a Teflon foot. And the Teflon will ride right along that vinyl without sticking. Now, you can go and buy a Teflon foot. They're not very expensive. I'll try to put the link in the comments section of the or the description section of the tutorial. But if you don't happen to have one, that's okay. You can do a couple of things. You can use some tissue paper and put that on your vinyl and it'll just tear right off. You could use some painter's tape, same thing, and it will just tear right off. So those are good sewing hacks that if you don't have a Teflon foot that you can use to sew on vinyl. But for today, I'm going to use my Teflon foot because I happen to have one and it's a lot easier for me to use. So let's head over to the sewing machine and let's do our 1/8 inch seam all the way around. Here we are at the sewing machine and you can see that I have my Teflon foot, which is just a white Teflon coated regular sewing foot that just slides onto my shank here. And I'm going to use that to sew all the way around my project here. I'm going to start at one end and just sew all the way around. There we go. We've done our 1/8 inch seam allowance all the way around. Now we're going to go over to the cutting table and we are going to move on to our next step. Okay, here we are. We have our vinyl secured to our holder. And now we need to just finish up this project. So easy. We are going to take our other piece of fabric. We are going to place it right sides down on top of our vinyl. And again, if you're an advanced sewist, you don't need to use pins or clips. You won't use pins on this anyway because of the vinyl. But if you're a beginner sewist, just put a few clips on this to secure it in place. And that's all there is to it. And we're going to head back over to the sewing machine and we are going to stitch a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. But on one side here, we are going to leave about a 2 inch opening so that we can turn this right sides out. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine. I'm not going to show you how to do this on camera because it's just the same thing that we just did, only using a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. And make sure to leave that 2 inch opening here on one side so that we can turn this right sides out. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have our back stitched onto our front, and now we are going to clip off the corners, making sure not to clip through the stitching. And the reason that we do this is so that we have some nice crisp corners, or at least as crisp as we can make them, given that we have vinyl corners for this project. So I'm just going to take my time and make sure that I can see the stitching, and we're going to clip off these corners. Now the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to turn this project right sides out. Now this is where this project gets a little fidgety because of the vinyl. But we are nevertheless going to turn this right sides out, and it will turn right sides out. It's just going to take a little bit of time because that vinyl is stiff. Now, as you can see, we are basically right sides out, but we need to poke out these corners. And we can do some of that with our hands. but we are going to need a poking tool of some sort. I have a chopstick here, but you can use that purple thing. I have misplaced my purple thing at the moment, but I'll put a link in the discussion section on where you can get that purple thing, which is a nice little poking tool, but I'm not sure where mine is at the moment. So I'm going to use this chopstick instead, and we are going to poke out these corners and try to make them as crisp as we can. Although, because of the bulk of the vinyl, it's difficult to make them perfect. But nevertheless, we are going to make our best effort. And as you can see, that's poking out very nicely. And we're just going through that opening that we turned our project through. There we go. And now our project is just about finished. But we have this opening. So what we're going to do is we are going to fold under our seam allowances, and we are going to clip these closed. Then we are going to head over to the sewing machine, and we are simply going to top stitch all the way around this using about an 1/8 inch seam allowance. And I used a 3mm stitch on this because it looks just a little bit nicer. And we're going to finish this off. So let me head over to the sewing machine and take care of that, and we will be ready to go. So here we are back at the sewing machine, and we are just going to top stitch this all the way around. And while we're top stitching this, we are going to be closing that opening up that we left with our to turn. There it is. So here it is. This is the final product of our vaccination card holder. And we just slip in our vaccination card. It is protected by the vinyl. You make a copy of the front, put it on the other side, fold it in half, put it in your purse or backpack, and you are ready to go. This is such a simple project to do. Anybody with basic sewing skills can make this project in absolutely no time whatsoever. It is just that simple. And if you want to protect your vaccination card, this is a great way to go about doing it. I hope you enjoyed this project here today at So Very Crafty. It's a super simple one, and one that everyone could use going forward, making sure that their vaccination card is kept nice and safe and secure, just like mine is. And if you would like more sewing and crafting videos, or if you want more sewing and crafting tutorials that aren't here on YouTube, head over to www.sewverycrafty.com and you can find loads and loads more tutorials that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. I'm slow but sure trying to get them all on YouTube, but it takes time because there's a lot of tutorials over there on the website. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and ding that bell so that you can get notifications for future Sew Very Crafty videos, and definitely make this vaccination card holder because you're going to need it. Thanks, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!